Discover Help presents Stress-Free Living with Ray Samich and Mr. Stress-Free Ratanjit S. Sandhi. This audio program is an unscripted and unrehearsed conversation between Ray and Ratanjit. It is shared with you in hope of adding value to your life. We encourage you to listen to this program in its entirety to receive the full impact of its message. Sit back, relax, open your heart, mind, and soul to this edition of Stress-Free Living.
Welcome to Stress-Free Living. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm Ray Samich, and I'd love to introduce all of you to my longtime radio co-host and colleague and my dear spiritual brother, Ratanjit Sandhi. Ratanjit, how are you this fine day?
Wonderful, Ray. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you. Looking forward to an interesting topic today that we have come up with. And as we have had the opportunity of talking with our Zoom audience before the show, a lot of different thoughts on this, a lot of different opinions. So our topic is going to be about wealth. And the reason that I wanted to talk about it is that I have so many wonderful friends that spend all of their life trying to become wealthy or trying to continue to be wealthy. And when they really do reach that point, many of them are happy. Many of them are not happy yet. They want more wealth or they want something else. Many of them realize they can't take it with them, but it's important to them to leave that legacy to their children and their families or to foundations or whatever it is. So a lot of people put great value in the idea of wealth. And yet in 30 years, I don't think we've talked much about physical wealth, about monetary wealth. And I said, let's talk about it, because is that really what we should be striving for? Is that really what should be the most important thing, or one of the most important things in our life? And so I thought I'd bring that to the table today, Ratanjit, to see what you think. You've attained some wonderful successes in your life, and so you can really give a great perspective on it with your spiritual basis and yet, how your lifestyle. What do you think about wealth? Is it even real?
The Dalai Lama once said, I may be paraphrasing it, and he said that the human being's behavior is strange. They spend all their health in making money. And when they grow old, they spend all their money in regaining health. So
Yeah.
It's kind of a funny side of wealth. Wealth, how I think as a scientist, wealth is an after effect of something else. It's like a chef. Chef has a recipe in mind, and he collects all these ingredients and put together a beautiful meal. That meal is an after effect of his or her talent. So anytime our wealth is created, it's an after effect of either an idea. You have this idea which is going to be very popular. So then you implement that idea into a commercial product and it sells and you become very wealthy. So the wealth is an after effect of that idea. The real wealth is that idea. Is it? Or real wealth is the money? Because then the money gets transferred into currency because we in earlier stages of human civilization, we did not have money. We would be exchanging product for another product. So we are bartering things. And it becomes very difficult, although you have a product, but nobody has used for this at that time. You are not able to barter for the right product. So somehow we created a currency, which is each product, each thing is somehow valued for this currency, and the value goes up and down. So
Right.
when there was a starvation in our 30s, in our depression, suddenly the gold has no value. Currency had no value. The bread, piece of loaf of bread was most expensive. So when you are in the middle of a desert and somehow you lost your way, then water becomes the most valuable commodity. If you are on the deathbed and you are a trillionaire, so doctor says only you have a week to live. So says, I have $1 trillion, I can give you all the $1 trillion if you can extend my life. So what is the value of money? So what is real? Is the real wealth your life, or real wealth the money you make? So this is sometimes we get so much inundated by the pleasure of our five senses, and we collect things to please our five senses, whether they are many times not good for us, but we do that to please our five senses. So money gives a mean to please our five senses. So suddenly the whole humanity is running after somehow collecting money there so that they can afford the pleasure of five senses, and ultimately the ultimate pleasure is boosting our ego. I have the bigger car, I have the bigger place, I have so much worth. So is there any wonder when billionaires are the greediest people on earth?
You brought up so many good points there, Eddie, so many different branches of the tree we can go down. I think we need to start with like the basic definition of what wealth is and see if you agree with that. Because according to the dictionary, wealth is an abundance of valuable possessions. Okay. And possessions, of course, could be money, but it isn't necessarily in the definition of wealth. It's an abundance of valuable possessions. When we talked about this pre-show, one of our Zoom guests said, even that is relative, because do I think that if I have 10 possessions, I'm wealthy? And you think when you have 50 possessions, you're wealthy, and somebody else thinks when they have 1,000 possessions, they're wealthy? So even that is not really a clear definition. And maybe that's by intent. Maybe every person is different. So maybe some people think they're wealthy even if they have 2 possessions, and other people think it takes 2,000. The point is, what, forgetting the number, is that really a definition that you would agree with? Is wealth clearly based on the number of possessions that we have, which could be money or could be other things?
You know, if you are looking from our sensory needs, we define wealth differently. When you look for our soul spiritual needs, we define wealth differently, right?
For sure.
So, most of us are part in the body mode, in the five senses mode. So that is why we define wealth as our possessions.
Right.
And those possessions, the more rare they are, the more value they have. So a lot of people, when they have so much wealth, they start collecting art pieces. And some of the art pieces are broken statues. They're ugliest to look at it because
Right.
they somehow they have been able to prove this is a 200-year-old or 1,000-year-old. This has this price because it is rare.
Right.
It has no value otherwise. What are you going to do with this old statue? So this is how, or ultimately, when you have gotten all our worldly things, you have gotten a house, you got the car, you got everything else. So to satisfy your ego, to boost that I have the rarest collection of art, they collect these things, and many of them, they have no understanding of that art. They collect only to fulfill their ego. So this value of uh, your wealth constantly changes. What you call wealth is basically what fulfills either your five sensory needs or egoic needs or your spiritual needs. So there are people in this world who were millionaires at one point or billionaires. They have given everything to charity and taken a sabbatical to find themselves, to understand what this meaning of life is, to spiritual things. So they are looking for another wealth, which is spiritual wealth. So wealth depends on you, whether you are being operated by your human body mode, your five senses, or you are operated by, you recognize that the real you is the power which enlivens you. And when you become in that mode, the definition of wealth changes, right?
There's no question about that. And when you get a definition from the dictionary, it's going to be based on our human mode. It's, maybe somebody should write, maybe that's what you should do yet, brother, is to write a dictionary from a spiritual basis, defining common words entirely different than a standard dictionary. But let's stay in that human mode because unfortunately that's where most of us live. Even if we try to go in the other world, we tend to go back to that human mode of our five senses, of our ego and our greed, and that's kind of where we live in the business world, in the education world of that we operate in. So within that mode, I still think it isn't clear cut. I still think that when you mentioned somebody on their deathbed who's a trillionaire, and I don't know if there is a trillionaire yet, but there will be one, but there's certainly multi-billionaires. If that doctor came to them and said, there isn't any amount of money, you're the richest person in the world, you have more possessions than anybody, and yet I can't give you one more extra hour of life despite everything you've accumulated. I have to believe it that I heard that and I said, wow, have I accumulated for my whole life something that is doesn't even have as much meaning as it should have. Should I have concentrated on health? If I would have been much healthier, let's say that person was only 45 years old and he got that news and he said, if I would have concentrated on health, if I would have been wealthy of health, or maybe the person who has a mental disorder because they've actually, they're not rational of thought anymore. And if they said, gee, if I wouldn't have been so caught up in all these crazy ideas and all of this insanity that I've been trying to understand, if I would have just been, a regular person with normal thoughts in a normal environment, I would have been healthy instead of going off to a point where I'm no longer thinking rationally and soundly. So my mental health would have been my wealth. My physical health would have been my wealth. My family, maybe that guy on his deathbed doesn't have any family around him because he doesn't have anybody that cares about him to be with him in his final minutes. And he says, I would have traded all that wealth for my family. Or you get into the thought even of saying, well, at least I'm leaving millions of dollars to my kids and my grandkids. They're going to be successful. But then I think you have to think, does that really matter? Is that the best thing I could have left? Is that the legacy that I really should have left my kids and my grandkids as money? Or should it have been something that really put them on the path to their own fulfillment and their own happiness other than it through money and through possessions? Those are the crazy thoughts that I have going through my brain that say we know there's value in wealth, there's no question, but what is wealth? What is wealth? And is it something that I can control? Is it something that's already been born within me? If I'm a singer and I become very, very successful singing, I didn't really even have anything to do with that. I was blessed with a voice and blessed with talent, and I was able to turn that into wealth and success. Do we all have that, whatever that talent is, that idea? You mentioned the idea that was the wealth. Do we all have that wealthy idea within us? That idea that can give us wealth?
You
Those
know,
are, I know, I sound like you now. I'm asking more questions than giving answers.
I mentioned initially the worldly wealth is an after effect of something else, the real
Yeah.
wealth.
That's moving. That's really powerful thought. Yes.
Basically, if you see any wealthy person in this world, they have something unique, an idea or a talent or something they are able to bring it to this world and which has value for others. So anytime any person, imagine a struggling human being who is working at a restaurant, barely making ends meet as a waiter in a small restaurant in a remote place, and suddenly this uh, very wealthy guy stops in and talks. Somehow he found this waiter to be interesting. So this waiter said, this, he mentioned an idea can be, so this business person having the business mind, he says, my goodness, this idea can be very successful business. So he says, hey, listen, I will invest money into it and let's put this into business. And suddenly that person who had no money, only a thought, and suddenly becomes very wealthy. So he was wealthy in thoughts and uniqueness of this idea, which he converted into money. It's like the same thing. If I found in the backyard a broken piece of statue, and suddenly, and I showed it to an art person, he says, "My goodness, this is the rare. This is worth billions of dollars." So suddenly I became wealthy because I found this unique old piece of art. Basically, all the talents, anytime you add value, you make a difference. And that talent can be transferred into wealth. That is your real wealth. So anytime we are able to add the value, you make it commercial, you make money at it. But if you simply add value to the whole human society, you don't become moneyed, but you become valuable yourself. Look at Mahatma Gandhi. When he had this idea of liberating the whole country from the empire, British Empire, and somehow he did that, and he became most valuable person. So what is the worth? He did not own billions of dollars. Now, you mentioned once that you came into this uh, reality that after 100 years or 150 years, nobody would remember you. If you showed your picture, doesn't matter how much money you have, how many trophies you have, nobody would remember you. But they will remember Mahatma Gandhi. They will remember Martin Luther King, because they gave most valuable commodity, which is unique service to humanity. And suddenly we talk about leaving a legacy. We talk about leaving a business for our children. We talk about, making money. The best thing you can leave for your children is not money, but reality of understanding who they are and what is the truly true wealth, which is to add value to humanity. And that idea is much more powerful than all the money you can make, because ultimately you can make all the money, and but you at the deathbed, you are still looking for, somehow extending your life. When you have added true value, Mahatma Gandhi, even in the deathbed, he got a bullet. He was thinking of Hey Ram, means he was pronouncing the name of God. He was connecting to the source we came from. He knew the reality. He knew the real wealth of the human mind. So until we realize the true wealth, we are going to be chasing the falsehood all our life. Ray?
We need to take a break. And I don't know. I think this has been very beneficial, meaningful so far, but I don't know if we're really clearer on understanding why we want to have so much wealth in our life, why we push to do that and think we're going to be happy. And then ultimately we know at the end, if that's all we have, we're not, because we can't buy additional life. But why is it so important to us on our journey that we think we need more wealth? And I want to come back and talk about that and maybe a lot of other things on this edition of Stress Free Living. We'll be back. Stay with us. We're back in just a moment. All right, 90 seconds. Would love to have your input. What do you think? Are we all over the board here? Can you help us clarify where we're going?
Well,
Let's go ahead.
go ahead.
We start with you, and then we'll go with everybody. Let's go ahead.
Ratanjit Singh has talked about the need-based value, the value of wealth based on need. So the everything is based on need and requirement. So since everybody has its own needs, the wealth is evaluated on based on need. So that is what the advertising causes the need, and other things cause the need, and then they create that wealth. So can we elaborate more on the need-based wealth?
Are you saying that that's where we should go with it, or that's where we are with it?
I think we are with it, and we can elaborate more on what is actual need-based wealth. The wealth is evaluated based on the need of a person.
Okay.
Rekha, quickly, what you have mentioned.
You got that connection, Ratanjit? So maybe you can bring it, because I'm not sure I'm grasping that thought.
Yeah, okay.
I know we had other people that wanted to say something quickly. We still have a few seconds.
Rekha wanted to say something.
I think
Liz?
it was Liz. Yeah, I think it was Liz.
Go ahead, Liz.
Liz?
You got the floor. No? All right. I know that unfortunately there was a little disconnect there. Apologize. Sometimes Zoom isn't perfect for allowing everyone to speak. I don't know if I have enough time to get back with Dr. No, we don't. Here's the music. We're back on Stress Free Living, talking in between with our wonderful Zoom guests. And we encourage you, if you would like to join us on the inside, to be one of our insiders here before, during, and after the show, you can go out and check out our YouTube channel. Just do a search on YouTube for Stress Free Living Radio. Stress Free Living Radio. All of our shows will come up, 130 some shows, but more importantly, perhaps you'll find the Zoom link in there, and that way you can join us live on Saturday mornings when we record the show that's going out over radio and internet stream, and then become the podcast on our YouTube channel. Ratanjit, a lot of input here coming back from our guests, and one of the thoughts came up that says, are we looking at wealth on a need basis? In other words, do we think that once our needs are met, then we are wealthy? And maybe it's just our confusion about what our needs really are. Do we need a $1,000 car, or do we need $100,000 car? Do we need a 1,000 square foot house, or do we need a 10,000 square foot house? Are we distorted with what our needs are, and that therefore distorts what our wealth is?
Basically, our entire commerce runs on that basis. And basically, if the need is very obvious, the product sells without any advertising. All you have to advertise is this product is available to you. It will do this, this, this. And all our advertising, all our promotions is basically concentrated on creating a need. So this is do this for you, this is do this for you, this is. So all our commerce, when you go to the grocery store, almost 90% of the things which are present there are useless to you. They'll
Right.
do, many of them will do harm to you. But you buy them because commercial made it so attractive, so tasty, so this thing. So similarly, you go to place like Walmart. My goodness, you if somebody hasn't seen the biggest store, they'll get lost. So many items, so many things, and basically satisfying your needs. So then what happens is you get one need satisfied, and suddenly it creates another need to take care of that. So your whole need basis requirements constantly keep on extending, and you're never happy. And suddenly, then comes out ego based selling. All these brands, a purse is sold for $10,000, $20,000, $100,000
Right.
because they advertise the price of this purse is so much. So when you buy this, you dictate to the whole world that I have $100,000 purse. Basically, it is satisfying your ego. It doesn't satisfy your other needs. So, any times, most of our whole economy, most of our decision making, most of our living is all based on our five senses. And will never satisfy the need of our five senses. It's never enough. That is why the greed happens. When you have more, you want more. Whereas your requirements are so minimum. Actually, the one best way to be healthy and extend your life is to eat less. One of the easiest way to minimize the stress is to have less clutter around you. What we do is go totally against it because we are not satisfying anything but our five sensory needs and your fear. You need to have this. What if I run out? And the greed, I have to have more. And then my ego, I have to show others I am better off than they are. So my mother used to say that you always think you are wiser than others, and others have more wealth than you. So you are trying to show them you have better wealth. You are trying to show them you have better possessions. Now, Ray, go ahead if you want to make a comment.
Well, I'm going to borrow a story you shared with me a long time ago. It's your story, but it's so good. I've shared it with others. When you talk about what we need, you mentioned the first time that Mother Teresa went to see the Mall of America, which at that time was the largest mall in the world. And the person who took her there walked out afterwards and says, Mother Teresa, what did you think of that? And she said, I never knew there were so many things that existed that I don't need. And that made such an impression on me because you're right. I mean, 99.99999% of the things that are around us, we don't need. And yet we're being told by everybody that we do, and that we're inferior in some ways if we don't have them. We're we're not enough unless we have that designer purse. You know, one of our guests just came back from New York City, and one of the most things that was memorable to me about going to New York City is that they have these tables set up all over with these knockoff purses and shoes and everything. And you look at them and they are absolutely identical. A purse you could buy for $50 is the same. It looks identical to that same purse that's a $5,000 designer purse with that logo on it, and you can't tell the difference. It's made the same, it looks the same, it feels the same, and yet because it isn't real, it's worth 1% of what that other one is worth. And by the way, they both carry and serve the same exact function equally, and yet one doesn't have the logo and it isn't real. It's a knockoff. So there's so much that we're told you have to have the brand, you have to have the item. I guess you've already answered the question that I said before the break. As long as we're in the human mode, are we always going to want to think we need more? Is there any way in the human mode we can be satisfied? We can understand that the simple life is more, even though it on the surface is less. That if we live in wealth, we're not going to be any happier, and in some cases we might even be less happy. Does it take a spiritual revolution of our identity to understand that? Or is there a way that we can live in wealth and not be miserable ultimately?
Ultimately, the wealth, the items, the things, the food satisfies the human need, and the home and satisfies, protects us from the shelter of rain and suns and all that. So these things are, as we made progress, these things are available to give us comfort to this human body. But we don't stop there. We go higher extent. We want to show others, I have more than you, our ego. So in the human body mode, our brain, which is very creative, amazing instrument, is directed by the human body mode, which knows it is going to die. So it is always lives in fear. It knows when not enough things are there, it is going to suffer. So it's part in greed. And ultimately, it thinks it is a separate body, separate being. So it is making itself better than others. It's part in ego mode. So when our brain is directed by the human body mode, which is not good or bad, that is the reality. So until the brain is directed by something secure, something not greedy, something free of our ego, our brain will only spit out our greed-based, fear-based, ego-based decisions. And we pay the consequences of those decisions. Our life becomes miserable, and we blame our luck. We blame the environment. We blame our politics. We blame the society. But it's all, social things do have impact on us. Some of the things we cannot change because the society forces certain things on us, because ultimately our leadership, which has constructed the social rules and regulations, are also directed by the human body mode. So until the whole thinking from the beginning understands that there is something else to direct our brain, the real me, the power which makes this human body alive, The human body without that power is basically dead. So if you have ideas which can make money for you, you have talent which can make money for you, or you have beauty which can make money for you, this human body directive things can only exist if this human body is alive. The human body is dead, all the talents goes with it, all the ideas go with it. So the real wealth, my friends, is the power which enlivens this human body. When it is directing the brain of the human body, we create lasting legacy. We make a difference to the society. We serve the human beings because we consider them as part of the divine force present in them. So we are continuously serving the divine force present in us and everyone else. That becomes the purpose of our life. Our purpose, instead of becoming rich and collecting money and having a lot of possessions, transfers into basically making a difference, adding value to the human beings, to the society, to the environment, to all everything which comes in contact with us. Right?
So powerful that it is the life itself that is the ultimate wealth. Because if we don't have that, then anything else that is within our abilities is worthless. But you used three words. You said ideas that are within us, the talent within us, and the beauty, maybe our beauty. And I think about those things that wouldn't be there if we didn't have the divine life. Because those are human things, the human ideas that are in our brain, and the talent that's within our makeup, to be a writer, to be a singer, to be an inventor, to be a scientist, whatever it is. And then the beauty, okay, which we don't talk about, but I mean, we are captivated by beauty. Beauty gives people a platform because they get noticed, and then so that handsome man or that beautiful woman are able to do things and go places and be noticed, which allows them to be heard, and that is something that is a fact of life. Those types of things that are within us are gone if we don't have the life within us. So is it true then that all of us have those abilities within us that can create wealth? And again, I'm not talking about wealth in terms of possessions. Create wealth, add value. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. Do all of us have that beauty within us, that talent within us, those ideas within us that we are not tapping into? For many of us, we live 80 years, but we never be what we were created to be, what we were intended to be. Were we never able to achieve the wealth by adding the highest value because we never tapped into those ideas? We never tapped into that beauty. We never tapped into that talent. To me, that's almost more of a depressing thought than the person who became wealthy that never became happy because they always wanted more. Could more of us be wealthy in terms of adding value and being fulfilled if we realized the power within us?
Ultimately, when you realize the power within us and understand I am the power within us, within me. I'm not the human body. And then ultimate realization comes, the power which is present within me is present within everyone else. So my purpose, my incentive, my reverence to that power grows, because everything exists because of the power. All the talent, all the uniqueness, all the ideas, all the wealth, everything happens because we are alive. And this entity which is given to us is a machine, human body, which does so many things. So utilizing this instrument given to us, we can add value. And when we add value to others, worldly wealth automatically comes to you, because your ideas are either adding value, or you are making somebody's life comfortable, or you are providing a talent or something which is making them happier. So this is where this aspect of adding value eventually rewards you, and your life becomes more comfortable. But people remain there. There are many wealthy people who have made so much wealth. Their personal life remains very simple. They eat simple food, they eat simple living, because they never get inundated by the wealth. They are not showing off their wealth to fulfill their ego. They are basically focusing on adding the highest value, serving the not other human being, but the divine in that human being. They are serving the same divine power which is present in all of us. And as a consequence, they become wealthy, they leave a legacy, and they are fully satisfied. And when the time comes to get out of this human body, they do not have any remorse or desire to live another day. They are completely satisfied. Right?
The very last sentence you said is hard to imagine, because I treasure life so much that I would have to believe that on my last day, if I knew it was my last day, I would say, I'm not ready to go yet. I still want a few more days to be with my family and to be able to do things and think and use my abilities, whatever they may be. It's hard to imagine that on your last day you would say, I'm totally fulfilled, I'm ready to go. Maybe that's another topic for another day. But that part of that's the ultimate fulfillment. Boy, if you can help me get to that, Ratanjit, I think I would have to be extremely grateful for that awareness. We are still talking about wealth, and we've got a couple more minutes, but we have to take a quick break and come right back and wrap this up. Please stay with us. All right. We went very long on that, but we have our 90 seconds to interact with you. If there's a last thought you want me to bring up to Ratanjit or a question.
Well, this is Doug. Maybe real quick before I lose service again. And I agree with everything you and Ratanjit have said. I still haven't changed my mind. I still say that when I think of wealth, think of money. It obviously different levels mean different things to people, but and there's good and bad possibly. But I still think of financial stuff when I think of wealth.
Okay.
Anybody else have something quick to add? If not, stay with us. We can talk a little bit more without time limits in 5 minutes, to be exact. All right, we're on our own, I think. Ratanjit, gonna try to wrap this up in 4 minutes. And maybe that is another topic, what we just talked about there at the end. Can we be fulfilled in our dying hours? Ready to go? Are you ready to go?
Yes.
Still on a commercial. Good thing for commercials.
Ray, this is Doug again.
Yeah, we're just about back, Doug.
All right.
And we're back on Stress-Free Living. Ratanjit and Ray, yours truly, Ray Samich, with you today, talking about wealth. And the title that we said is Wealth Real? And Ratanjit, I thought you were going to spend the show telling me wealth isn't real. I really thought that's what we were going to go with, that it isn't tangible, it isn't real. And maybe you have, but what I've heard instead is that we just need to define what wealth is, that it all depends on your interpretation of wealth. If you look at wealth as our ability to add the highest value, if that's and I think in many ways that is our true wealth, our ability to tap into our talents, our ideas, our beauty, our essence of that human ability to take the divine power within us and use it, then that wealth is very real. And it's almost our responsibility to use it and to have it and to become wealthy by it, but not in the way of adding dollars into our bank account, but by a way of adding more value. Is that a fair summary of what we talked about?
You know, you never met anybody who never wants to be wealthy. But how come only few people become wealthy? Because they realized the real wealth, knowingly or unknowingly, is their talent or their uniqueness or their capacity to add value. And they figured out a way to add value and convert that into a commercial enterprise, and they become wealthy. So the wealth only, what we call wealth, everybody wants to buy so many lottery tickets because I want to be wealthy, I want to have money. But money doesn't happen until you focus on adding value, making a difference. So the real wealth is your capacity, your wisdom, your incentive to add value. Otherwise, you are going to change the wealth and you will always collect food stamps. And another thing which I wanted to say, that satisfaction happens when you are focused on understanding of who you are, and now even you know that you are dying, you are going to be satisfied. Remember the story of the lady who called our television or radio show, and she said, "I'm dying. could you fulfill my last desire? And her desire was to carry this show. And she said that after the doctor gave her a diagnosis of living only 4 or 5 months, and she was very upset, very angry, and hated, and had no faith, and there's no God. And suddenly, after listening to our show, understanding the real God lives within her, and she started living in the present, she was comfortable in that period, and she was grateful for life she had and every breath she took. And because of that, she was happy that whenever the time comes to unite with the power which is present with her is something to look forward to.
That we have to end you right there with those last words. Remember, folks, we're all playing the same game. Have a great day. We'll talk to you again real soon. Okay, I'm so sorry, but we went overtime there. All right, we are off the air, and now it's your turn. We hope that you will share some thoughts with us. Did we kind of answer the question today, or do we still have more questions? Please join us.
This is Liz. I thought this was a beautiful show. And Ray, when you mentioned that Ratanjit needs to write a book, I second that, but I think you should co-author it and basically outlining the principles that you all just talk about, and the human body mode versus the spiritual mode, and how, I don't know, when you said that, I got really excited because I'm a big reader and I would love to read it. So 30 years of the show, you could distill a lot in a book. So I can speak on the topic, but I also just you made that comment on the side, and I just wanted to encourage that thought to continue.
Yeah, Liz, I just finished a book. It's called Sins of Education.
Oh, okay. I read your first book. I didn't know you had another one come out.
Yeah, so
Okay.
this is the 5th book, and
Oh, I've only read one. I didn't know
I
you
can
had
send you a
5.
draft of that book to read if you want.
Ooh, thank you.
Which
Sure.
one do you have, Liz? Which one do you have?
The one, it's about adding the highest value, and it's the story of his business and how he transformed his business and hired all the new people.
Yeah.
I
So
forget the title of that book.
Missing another book which is called The Tea, which is very.
And that one we did we did co-author. It's
Oh, you did? Oh, okay. I just didn't
yeah.
know all this. Okay, well, I'm excited to get my hands on these. So thank
All right,
you.
we gotta get you tea. And
Okay.
I was that was I was kind of ghostwriter for that. So there's a lot of me in there with Ratanjit. So hey, we gotta get these to you.
Oh,
And
well, I'm happy to buy them if there's just a link or whatever, but thank you. And I can comment on the show too, but I just wanted to mention that before I forgot it.
Liz, are you coming to Cleveland?
I am. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
And I'm gonna submit it.
By the way, you can always get it from Amazon, but I'll be glad to send it to you.
Well, she's going to come to Cleveland. We're in Cleveland in a month. So yes. So maybe we should even set something up again, Ratanjit, where we can get together. But I can give her some books and things. Radhika has been so polite and patiently waiting with her hand raised.
I just got excited about the new book called Sins of Education, and I wanted to get an early read on that too.
Okay, send me your email on the text so I can send it.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
I'll send you the draft. Only one condition: you have to give me your feedback.
Sure. Okay, I can do that. No problem.
Because it isn't published yet, so we're looking for feedback. And this is Ratanjit's book.
Dr. Mehta has finished that book. Dr. Mehta, you have any comments to make?
I actually did last time, but yes, it is a wonderful book. Very well written, very well researched, and there is a lot more material there to be have at least I enjoyed it. It was at times a little bit more thought-provoking, but after that, the chapters become more easier to go through, and it's very understandable, very simple language. He repeated his thoughts and made it very practical tips throughout the book, which will help almost any reader, not only the educators, but even non-educators, to understand how the society is changing, how can they keep themselves more aware what's going on, and for their own personal, physical, moral, and mental health. Is that true? I mean, is that summarization pretty well, Sonali-san?
Yeah, very, very, thank you, thank you.
I watched your YouTube videos, the talks you both did on education. You did a whole bunch of them a few years ago. Is it the same kind of concepts, the same topics? Because that would be great.
It's much more detailed, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
very
wonderful.
detailed. It's almost like 250, 260 pages.
Oh, wow.
It's
Great.
very well written too. It's very enjoyable.
Looking forward to it.
Dr.
In terms of the
Jagjeet?
talk,
Go ahead.
I'll just quickly comment. I think it was super insightful, and I agree with a lot of the things Uncle said. The one thought that came up to me, and I don't know if I think you guys have addressed this in the past, but there's that concept of like doing everything in life by adding value, and that your purpose and your motive is to just add value. What do you do when you're in like an organization where other leaders, that's not the top of their mind? Like the top of mind for them is not necessarily how do we add value. And then sometimes I feel like I'm coming from like a business standpoint now, that if you're in leadership with other people that don't have that same motivation, but are just, I don't know, maybe just seeking the wealth or seeking the bottom line, how do you, or do you just keep doing your thing and I'm just going to add value and that's how I'm going to contribute to this? Do you try to convince other people to shift their mindset? I'd love to know what, how do you balance or collaborate with people who might not have that same intention?
It's a very good question, and many people who are so much in their egoic mode where it becomes very challenging to change them. But if you become a value adding entity, you will have so many opportunities to add value. May not be exactly how you want to add value, but each opportunity will demand a customized value addition. So you have to have a mindset of recognizing that it could be making a cup of coffee, it could be listening to somebody, it could be helping somebody, but you have to recognize the need of the hour. And constantly you are not, the moment you become I'm only a chemist, I'm only can do this, you limit yourself, but you become a value adding entity, then you gravitate to opportunities which demands adding value. And adding value could be very small thing, and it could be a big thing. But you may not be exactly able to add value how you want it, but the situation demands a different version of value addition. It's recognizing and addressing that situation is basically the value adding. Ray, you have something to say?
I do, because I've been caught in that situation so many times in the real world when I'm on a board with people that are not there for the right reasons, or I'm in a business environment where the people aren't there for the right reasons. And I think one of our human tendencies is to look for validation by the people around us, so that when we come up with an idea and say something, we want to look around the room and see people nodding with us that they agree, or coming up to us afterwards and say that was a good idea, whatever. We can't, if we're trying to do this the right way, we can't be looking for that outside validation, because the people around us may not be on that same page. They may not be looking for what we're saying. And initially, they may not give us any favorable response. They might even give us a negative response initially. Like, that just won't work. That's crazy. That's not, you're not being realistic. So we have to be very secure in what we believe in. And if we truly are doing it not for validation of others, or not for ego, not for their, wow, this guy's smart, or this woman is really brilliant to come up with that. If we're not looking for that, we're saying things and doing things, acting in ways that we really believe are adding the highest value, then we don't need that outside validation. We're just comfortable with what we're doing. And it's not even a brave thing to do at that point. It just, like Ratanjit says, if we become the essence of adding value, so that's no longer an act we're putting on, it's no longer a face we're wearing, but it actually is who we are, then we don't need that validation from others. And the bottom line result of that I have seen over and over again is that things start shifting. People buy into a number of those things, even if they didn't give you validation up front. They see the value in what you're saying, and and things, that boat starts steering in a different direction. And I've seen that so many times. And you never get credit for it, which is fine, because that's not why you did it. But you see things going in a better direction.
I think it's not a matter of, my question's not like, how do I add value? Like, I feel confident in, like, in my department, working on things that add value and moving, the business in the direction that I want it to go in. But in other departments of the business, if there's a leader that might not have that intention, and the way they're making decisions on their part, like, is that something you just, okay, let them do it the way they're going to do it, and that's fine, and we'll deal with that the way it falls, or the way the cards fall? Or do you intervene and like, suggest that, hey, I think this might be coming from a space of ego rather than a space of value added. Maybe you should consider something else. Like, I always kind of have a tricky time like, do I just do my own thing and just, move forward with how I'm doing it? Or do you share with other, not knowledge, but opinions with other people, so that they can change their intention? I don't know if that makes sense.
We have to first accumulate some credit with people. In other words, we have to, best way to manage people is to catch them doing the right thing. And when you catch them doing the right thing, hey, you go into detail what they did, instead of saying, I appreciate what you're doing, you are doing a great job. That doesn't mean anything. When you practically, this is the report you gave, the details you gave in this report, this and this were amazing. And these things you do very well. So once you catch that, you earn yourself also a right to suggest. Now, if you did this thing similarly, my goodness, you would change the world. Certainly, you will incentivize them to do the right things. First of all, because they are part in the ego mode. You have to understand that. So you have to feed their ego by praising them what they have done. Now, because they have tasted what is good coming out of you, they want more. And then you tell them what to do, and they do it. If you
That
suggest
makes sense.
right away something which is asking them to do something which is, then it is very difficult. So you have to
That makes
earn
sense.
credit. The bank would not give you credit if you have not borrowed money and returned it, right? So human beings are similar. You have to have enough credit with the human beings, first praising them, working for them, and making simple things for them. But the moment your title, which is higher than theirs, comes in the way, that defeats the purpose. When a boss makes coffee for you, you have higher respect for the boss, right? And if the boss worries about your kids and asks you, how are you doing? What are your day other than the business? You think the boss is are really concerned about you. You are more likely to listen to that boss than otherwise. Until the boss becomes a servant, he is not really the boss.
I like that.
Very true. Anybody else have a thought?
I have too long of a thought, but we'll talk some other day, maybe.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. I think what he's today has done, both of you have done a great job. This is a complicated topic. I think it may be good. I mean, most of the time, I think Ratanjit Singh, he has very nicely categorized or defined wealth in monetary terms, right? He was wealthy or she was wealthy. And also have to realize that just the monetary things alone can't buy everything, can't get you everything, for example, health. But everybody has a different way of defining wealth or their own self-worth, I guess, in monetary values and non-monetary values. Like Gandhi's, he gave example. That was a moral wealth for him. It wasn't a monetary, like in money terms, but it was a moral values that he carried all the time. And he changed it, or he made it significant contribution to the society. Rekha is what she was saying is that how do you distribute this uniqueness that we all wanted? Ray, before the show started, said something that's very interesting. He said, if you buy a car, it's $10,000. But if it was possessed by Elvis Presley, it becomes $100,000. Why? Because of the uniqueness of the car. It was owned by Elvis Presley. Not every car is owned by Elvis Presley. He just gave an example of uniqueness. No boss serves a coffee to the employee. But if you do as a boss, you become a unique. You just contribute as something that is very scarce. Scarcity makes a unit of a value. For example, in the old time, gold was scarce. So that became, the gold coins has become a unit for monetary value measure, right? When you create a product, like he said, you add the highest value. He's talking about entrepreneurship. You come out with a product that other people never thought that'll contribute, that'll help the society. But if it's a unique, you became entrepreneur. But the entrepreneur also has the ability to use that highest value adding product into monetary values. So all this, I think there's a called Shark something show, that people come out with all these unique ideas that they think will add value. But it's the people who are at higher, their thinking is whether in their opinion that will add the value to the society to create a wealth or not. Shark Tank, I think it's called. I've watched it only once. And those are entrepreneurs, right? So if you figure out a way to take that unique product that you think would add value, you'll make money. If you can't, you may even have a very useful product, but you can't make money out of it. For example, we had this fax was made in US. The digital film that we use in our digital cameras was made by Kodak. But they didn't know how to use it in the market. And the Japanese took it and ran away with that. Same thing for the fax. They created it, they had the product, but didn't know how to make money. So they became short of entrepreneurship. So Soni Saab is, whatever he's adding is absolutely true, but it's a very complex product. It's a very complex topic to talk about. So I try to categorize it in very simple ways of monetary versus moral, and then try to understand it. But I mean, I can go on and on and on, but this is a very complex topic, and trying to boil down to one thing is not easy. I mean, that's what my thoughts. I'm sorry about it. But Ray, what are your comments?
Well, you've been hearing mine for the last hour. This is the time that I'm grateful to hear yours. I
No, but I
appreciate
was just saying what Soni Saab basically was saying is that at one time for a one person, the bread was the unit because it was a scale, right? For people who are in desert, they basically, for them, water is scarce, and that becomes the value of wealth. So the wealth is defined by a unit, which is scarce, period.
Right.
But that's a monetary wealth. If you are short of moral values, then became moral as a wealth.
You know, I think what's touching me with what you're saying is when you use the word scarce or unique. And I mentioned this in the show. I think what troubles me more than anything else, what would disappoint me in my life more than anything else, is to say that there were certain abilities that I was given that I didn't use. There were certain unique opportunities I had that I didn't take advantage of and do something with. And to me, that's maybe the saddest, situation of all, is that we have probably millions of people that are walking around, living their life in a very ordinary way, and they think that that's all there is. And that there's so much more that is within us, so much more talent, so much more ability, so much more goodness unique to them that they're not utilizing. And that thought becomes more and more evident to me in this program all the time, is that we settle for the ordinary, and our ultimate wealth, and probably even financially, but even aside from that, our ultimate wealth is doing the things that we were uniquely designed to do that we don't do.
Absolutely. And he says it in his book too, that if your thoughts remain thoughts, they are of no value unless they become a habit, unless you put it in practical use. I mean, that's his words in that book that he wrote in Sense of Education, right? But you are absolutely right. You probably came out with a lot of unique ideas, but you didn't know how to put it in a practical use. And that's
Right.
what entrepreneurship is all about. You put it in a use, but don't regret it. Don't feel bad about it. If you still remember, go ahead and try it.
But I guess, understanding oneness allows you to say, okay, here's this idea, give it to the world where somebody else can run with it then. Somebody else with the ability to market that or to promote it or to, make it available is the piece that maybe the person who has the idea doesn't know what to do with it. But if they hold on to that and they possess that idea and they never share it because they don't want to give it to the world because they don't know how to make money from it, and it dies with them, it's like, wow. I mean, maybe the cure for cancer, truly is already out there, and yet we haven't tapped into the oneness ability to expand on that, whatever that one aspect was that was determined, so that the whole world can know about it and benefit from it. And how many other things that we could be further along with. And I don't even just mean monetarily, I just mean advancing our fulfillment, advancing our happiness, our levels of joy, because ideas haven't been shared because people didn't understand they don't have to carry the ball all the way to the finish line. The football team has 11 players on it, so it isn't reliant just on one person. You work as a team, and that's oneness. Other people can pick up and be part of that team to finish your thought, finish your idea.
You're absolutely right, Ray. But I also think that we all are adding value in our own ways to the society, right? That's why we're getting paid for. That's why we did whatever we did. We all add values to the society. The trick is, if you want to be monetary wealthy, is bring out a unique idea that is others are not so far, or very few people have done it. You come out with any idea that will benefit the society, that is rare, that is unique. And that's what Sony Saab has been pretty much describing it through our 1 hour session. And I love it. It's just that I think it's a lot more to it. And maybe we should keep on discussing some of it in a more organized way. I don't know. From the very beginning, you asked me how to define it, and I can't define it well. Isn't it true?
Someone asked me a question on the weekend that I would love to know, like, your answer on. I was at a meditation retreat, and they just came and like, oh, Eureka, like, how did you find your purpose? Like, I'm not happy in my job. I don't know what I'm meant to be doing, and I can't figure anything else. I can't figure out what I'm meant to do. And like, I like, Ray, to go back to what you were saying, like that's the biggest thing, right? Is how do we know what we are meant to be doing in this world, and how do people figure that out without having to go through something traumatic and be put on bed rest or whatever, and like to figure it out, like how do we equip youngsters or people so that they have a clear understanding of what it is they're meant to be doing, so they can use their unique tools to serve the world in whatever way they're meant to. Like, I would love to, like, it would be so nice. Maybe you've already talked about this and I just didn't attend that one, but how do you, Uncle, like, help people figure that out for themselves so that they can get on with serving the world and doing whatever they're meant to be doing?
There are two sides of it. One is that our concept of starting a new business is finding some unique idea, unique something. But look at Walmart, the oldest business ever to sell a merchandise. But they added higher value. So Success comes from not the greatest idea, but adding the highest value. So if you are adding the highest value, you can figure out the old paradigm to add the higher value than somebody else will do, you will supersede that business. It's always adding the higher value, not uniqueness. Uniqueness is embedded in egoic need. I want to be unique. I want to add special value. But if you are focusing on serving, it's egoless serving and higher serving. How can I elevate my serving? So, all right, instead of making just a coffee, how you serve that coffee is upgrades it. Understanding that this person needs more sugar and less sugar upgrades it. This person needs hot or cold coffee, upgrades it. So it's continuously comprehending the need, matching with your mission of adding the highest value under any circumstances, under any situation.
So then you're not looking, okay, what is my purpose in life? What am I meant to be doing? And let me go about doing that.
The purpose of life is to add highest value.
So then you're focused on the advice that should be given. I'm assuming from what you're saying is just honing in on how can I add value in this moment of what I'm doing right now, whatever that is, moment to moment.
Purpose of life is to serve the divine force present in everyone else. And how do you serve that force? Through uniqueness, through adding the highest value, through meeting the needs of the moment. So that's how you add the highest value. You remain as a most obedient, most motivated servant. That is automatically success will happen to you.
This has had her hand raised.
Sorry, I'll try to unraise it.
Right.
Well, this may be viewed as more human body mode, but I don't think it could be seen as that. But for me, it's not. But my background before I got into commercial real estate is leadership development in higher ed. I was a leadership educator and supervised engagement offices like leadership development and career centers and things like that. So I worked with college students and have a doctorate focusing on helping students in the 18 to 25 range uncover their talents and their strengths and develop leadership skills. So there are tools that you can use to help uncover that uniqueness that Ratanjit is talking about. I believe for sure, I agree with him that the greater purpose is to add the highest value, but how in my unique way, like what are my unique strengths? What lights me up? What are my unique passions? What did I love doing as a kid? You can explore that. So there's lots of other things you can do to uncover that, but it can still come from the spiritual mode of, but it can be done in many different types of careers or types of roles or jobs. So I think what Ratanjit is talking about is a mindset, but there's also tangible assessments and coaching that you can do to also be more practical about it as well.
We constantly judging others whether they have done this or no, whereas we should be judging how can I improve what I have done. Constantly asking this question, how can I make my best better? How can I add higher value than I did before? So once you are on that path, you are already on your way to success.
Ratanjit, one thing that you said a couple minutes ago that hit me was you said uniqueness, recognizing our uniqueness is part of our ego. And I don't I don't understand that, because I think recognizing our uniqueness gives us then a responsibility that we need to take to utilize that uniqueness. I don't think that's my ego talking, and maybe it is, and that's why I'm asking the question. I don't think it's my ego. It's taking my responsibility for the divine within me and the divine abilities that have been given to this human body to perform for the greater good, to add the highest value. So I don't look at, I don't look at my unique capabilities as being, ego based. I look at them as being responsible to the one to use those unique abilities. How am I misunderstanding that?
Uniqueness is constantly elevated and rediscovered. As a child, there are certain things which are very, very distinct in certain people, which comes out as uniqueness. And if you only focus on that uniqueness, many times that becomes a drawback for you, because that's the only thing you want to do.
Okay, yeah.
It's ego driven then. What comes before uniqueness is adding the highest value. If uniqueness is self-servient to adding the highest value, it works. If uniqueness becomes the boss of adding the highest value, it doesn't work.
Okay. I could see how the pecking order of that makes all the difference. If I'm basing,
you will discover your uniqueness as you go. And when you find that uniqueness, you have to be utterly grateful. Instead of I'm unique, I can do this, it becomes ego.
Okay.
Most of our people, I sing very well, I do this very well, I do this very well. It's ego. Because until everything is subservient to your main mission of adding the highest value, nothing works.
And I guess gratefulness is in there too, right?
Yeah.
If you become grateful for that uniqueness, truly grateful, not just surface level, but ultimately understanding that that's an incredible gift that you've got only to add value, with the only intent of adding value.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, we appreciate all of your great input here.
Rika, would you send me your email, and Liz?
Actually, they did. They're in chat, and I'm already sending them to you by email, so you'll have them momentarily. I got them. Okay.
Thank you.
And Liz also wants the book.
All right.
So
Thank you. Thank you very much.
all right.
Today.
Thank you so much. We look forward. Hopefully you can join us next week. We'd love to have you back.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Have a good week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Any topics
Thank
you
you.
guys suggest for next week?
Think about it. I don't know
Yeah.
yet.
Please always send us. Please always email us, text us, whatever it is. We'd love to hear. Today's show was generated by one of our listeners' questions.